The Auburn Tigers take down Michigan, and they are elite.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first or second or third listen every single day. Darrell, Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend here with us. The Auburn Tigers are the next team to punch their ticket to the Elite Eight. They take down Michigan thanks to an incredible second half. Darrell, I don't even know what to say. I just want to scream words right now.
The run that Auburn went on with about 10 minutes left to go in the basketball game
22.
Is historical. And that is what teams that have championship pedigree hearts do. They were sloppy the first half.
Yes.
The guard play, which I had been preaching all week, Auburn had to have, showed up in droves in the second half. Our guard, Denver Jones and Tahad Pediford, absolutely carried that team from a guard perspective in the second half. And thank God for Johni Broome, who I said was not going to have 2 games in a row with single digits. And he kept Auburn in it until the guards got going. And whatever scouting Trey Donaldson and Danny Wolfman Jack did, Danny Wolfboy, I don't know. It didn't work. It wasn't Connor Stallions scouting that team, that's for sure, because from 10 minutes on, Michigan had no answer, period. And
That's right.
It's amazing to me that Auburn covered in this game. Would you have thought that when Auburn was down 8 or 9? You're just hoping for a win, a squeaker.
Right. At the half, I would have said yes. When we were down big, I was actually emotionally bracing myself of is this going to end? Is it going to end earlier than we all wanted it to? And I think this team kind of had that conversation probably with Bruce Pearl leading. And it's like, is this how y'all want to end it? Is this it? With everything you've accomplished, are you okay losing to a Michigan team that you were significantly better than? And they clearly answered the call. And it was Tahad Pediford. It was Tahad Pediford who was not good. You and I were texting each other a little bit. He was bad in the first half. Looked nonchalant, bringing the ball down the floor, letting Trey Donaldson just kind of poke it out of you. And he was just missing shot after shot after shot. And then Tahad, in Tahad Pediford fashion, says, you know what? This moment's big enough now. And I'm ready to take this thing over. And he did it in different ways. He did it with just making threes in front of people's faces. He did it by saying, hey, I'm a step faster than you think I am. I'm going to be able to attack the basket and score on these 7-footers that everybody's talked about how is going to be a problem all week long. And then the incredible 4-point play. I mean, that was just that's when I knew we were there's no way we're losing this. It's like, okay, yeah, we're good. This is the team. This is the team that did all this historic stuff all season, and they finally came back in the second half against the Michigan Wolverines.
Well, listen, and we talk about Auburn and you talk about the first half Michigan has, and somebody in the comments pointed out, oh, Wolf kicked our butts in the first half. You know what, though? Basketball, you play 2 halves. You play 2 halves. And Auburn wore him down. And I thought him and Golden could get fatigued because they are big and they are physical and they play that big.
Yeah.
He looked like a different player in the second half. Look at the threes he shot late that he was short on. He missed his free throws when the legs go. I give him credit for having a great first half. But unfortunately, the game's it's 2 halves. Pediford, you almost could see this coming because of how he's played all year in big games.
Sure.
When the lights are the brightest, that joker does not play like a freshman. I'm so happy for Denver Jones, who has played kind of under the radar all year. Trey Donaldson leaves. Denver Jones is point guard 1, part of the reason why Trey Donaldson left. And look at the game Denver Jones had. Defensively, he did exactly what I thought he was going to do, Zach. He locked Trey down. And then
hold on though. But Trey scored, and he said that Auburn was too small for him.
He did. And
how about that?
And then how many did he get after that? 5?
He had 5 the whole game.
Exactly. Denver clamped him, put a boot on him like you parked illegally at Sanford Hall. And I think, it's true. And Broom and Cardwell and Chaney did exactly what they needed to do in the second half from a fatigue factor. I know Broom fouled out. He did a good job playing with 4 fouls. Don't underestimate that. That's walking a tightrope.
Bigger than him.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I'm going to tell you something right now. I hope if you pass out, your wife or someone can give you some smelling salts. And everybody that's watching this game, get ready. Pat Adams helped us tonight. Oh. I know. I said it. If you aren't used to playing in a game that Pat Adams referees, it's different. And listen, Zach, the Big Ten lets a lot of stuff go. It's very physical. Pat Adams doesn't let stuff go. He'll call fouls. I don't think the Michigan bigs were used to that type of game being called. And I know we might have had I don't know, at the end of the day, I think we were equitable in fouls. I think the fouls were evened out. It was a lot of fouls, and I give Pat Adams a lot of grief. Look, Darrell's gone nuts. I know you can drug test me tomorrow. Laugh at me all you want. Pat Adams was beneficial to Auburn tonight. He calls everything. It's frustrating. But Auburn's used to that. Michigan wasn't. And that hurt them. It hurt them.
We also heard all week, everybody wanted to talk about even the the CBS game preview show that they did. Every time they talked about Michigan, it was always about the bigs. It was always about the 7-footers. That's what we heard all week. It's like, okay, all right. But it's this weird thing of like, that just doesn't seem to matter as much in March. For whatever reason, it just doesn't. And you said it all, when you and Lindsay did a great job this week filling in for me. So thank you so much. But
no problem.
You guys talked about the guards over and over and over again. But when you think about, okay, well, they've got 2 7-footers. Oh my goodness. Where I'm a bit concerned about it was rebounding, because there are some teams that we just haven't been able to rebound against. Auburn won the rebounding 48-33.
I mean, that is BTA rebounding.
Yeah.
And it's not close. If you would have told me that Auburn could have been within 1 or 2 of Michigan in rebounding and won the turnover battle, I say Auburn wins this game, comfortably. I didn't see that script where early in the game, Auburn was the one turning it over, but Auburn had so many second chance points. And me and Lindsay talked about it. I said, in basketball, extra possessions matter because it gets you extra points. You either get it by turning the other team over or second chance points with offensive rebounds. And Auburn did a great job. I mean, think about that. The most physical, tallest, most formidable front line they played all year, they were plus 12 on the boards. That is legendary. That is showing up. I mean, again, that is the best on paper rebounding team Auburn. I mean, they had 2 7-footers. It's not rocket science. They had 2 big dudes. And Auburn, absolutely. That's when you know it's effort. And I will say this too, quickness played a part in the rebounding, getting to the spots. You know what I'm saying?
Especially, I kind of kept expecting Michigan to try to slow it down. And if they did, they didn't seem like they tried too hard. And the way they use Wolf, though, they don't really use him like he's 7 feet tall, which is they do on defense, but on offense, and that just was weird to me because I think that would be the same thing.
They did the same thing with Dickinson last year that went on to Kansas. That Joker spent. It is. He spent so much time on the perimeter, and you're going, what? This dude's 7'1", and Dickinson's like 260. And Wolf's a good player. I get it. It's just in the second half.
Solid. Sure.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to call spade a spade. Auburn wore him down in the second half, and absolutely, from a fatigue factor standpoint, Auburn was deeper.
Yeah, I think so. Who was your player of the game? And how do you feel against the Tigers taking on Michigan State to get to the Final Four? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Darrell, you want to guess the line? I've got it pulled up.
I guess Michigan State?
Yes.
7.5.
5.5.
That's a good line. I always said 7.5 because every time I guessed, it always seemed to be too high.
A little bit higher for all.
Yeah.
Sure.
5.5 is a really good line. And that's what me and Lindsay were talking about. The Bellagio ain't no shack. That's why the buildings in Las Vegas are so beautiful. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. But I guess Auburn, I was going to say they've covered every game, but we were like a 30-point favorite against Alabama State. So
well, here's a news flash.
Yeah.
First time, I believe, in Auburn NCAA tournament history that they've won their first 3 tournament games double digits. Yeah. The 86 team and this team got through the first 2 rounds double digits. I don't think that 86 team won their Sweet 16 game double digits. I think they won by 8. Wow. So that's pretty historic. And oh, by the way, Auburn's 3-0 in the Sweet 16.
That's kind of interesting. I just said it was 5.5, right? Am I crazy?
You did say 5.5.
All right, it's now 4.5. It just changed.
It's because we said something.
It just changed. So we'll see. But head over to FanDuel right now. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to bet on the Tigers any way you see, please. Any way you see fit, excuse me. Or, of course, any other team. So visit FanDuel.com to get into the college hoops action all tournament long. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. I think player of the game, I'll let you say Tahad. Do you want to say Tahad? You can have it.
I want Broom.
Oh, I was going to make an argument for Denver. I was going to make the case for Denver just because of the stability. Because he and Janai, I think, were a big part of somehow Auburn had the lead at the half.
Yeah.
And then he also was a part of that scoring barrage and that 20-2 run as well. So I think Denver's consistency was huge. Obviously, you can make the argument for Tahad as well. I mean, he was the axe that cut off the head of, the Wolverine. But yeah,
without Broom in that first half, who knows what could have happened in the second half? Doesn't
matter.
And not only did he go off offensively, I think why I have him as player of the game is he neutralized with his play in the front court Golden especially, or maybe that was Cardwell that was on Golden and Wolf was on Broom, but Broom drug Wolf in the second half, and so that it was 2-pronged. Yeah. And again, he had 8 points. Look, you in the biggest games, your best players need to step up, and Broom did. And the fact that we got that kind of secondary scoring from Tahad in Denver, and Miles struggled a little bit. And Chad Baker-Mazara came alive a little bit in the second half. I don't know what he ended up with, Zach, from a points total, but like I've said all year, he may only end up with 10 or 12, but his 10 or 12 always seem to be big. They always seem to be big baskets at key parts of the game.
Who, Denver?
Chad Baker-Mazara.
Chad. Got it.
Yeah, I don't even know what he had. I think he might have 10. I don't know what he had.
Yeah, and once again, though, I mean, talking about Cardwell and Janai, and I'll make it a threesome with Chaney Johnson. I mean, those pause. But I think those guys, when the whole narrative about the 7-footer stuff or whatever, it's I'd rather have these 3 guys. I just would.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they could do more,
absolutely. Absolutely. They're not. We talked about, I got ridiculed. People on Twitter, YouTube, all that saying, you haven't been watching Michigan basketball if you think that our bigs are slow-footed. They're slow-footed. I'd much rather have on defense from a quickness standpoint. Auburn can definitely get to the spot better. Look at the rebounding thing. You don't out-rebound somebody that's 3 inches taller than you unless you're quicker. And I think some of that explosiveness from Janai came back a little bit tonight as far as getting off the floor quicker. So at the end of the day, they have really good bigs. I get it, but Auburn neutralized them. And once their bigs, which I think is their bread and butter, were neutralized, it allowed Auburn to find its footing, find its rhythm, and then just go on that historic run.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how far this team goes. But if they achieve something historical, we'll talk about that 20-2 run. we'll talk about it for a long time.
That's exactly right. Because look, Auburn still has not played a complete basketball game yet in this tournament. They haven't. They played a good 30 minutes against Alabama State, and they played crappy for 10. They played a great half against Creighton and not a very good half the first half. They played a terrible half against Michigan, and you're like, how are they up 1 point? I mean, how? And then had the historic run where that run that they had was as good as they've played all year. That was Maui, Purdue, Ohio State.
What it felt like.
Tuscaloosa, Auburn is what.
Because it was both sides of the floor too. I mean, it's not like they were taking off defensive possessions just because they finally got the offense going. I mean, it was full, complete. Like when Auburn was this analytically like perfect basketball team, or like this historically good team when it came to all of these numbers and resume points and all that. They didn't let anybody breathe. And from about 12 minutes ish left to go, 13-ish minutes left to go in the game, they were like, we're not letting you breathe anymore. This is we need to get to the Elite Eight, and you're in our way, and we don't care about you.
I'll say this too. I don't think it's ever been more apparent as to why having a very, very veteran-laden team, how important it is tonight. I'm just telling you that teams that have that many seniors and that have that many guys that have played basketball for so long and are that old, people can joke about it. Those type of teams don't fold. A young team may have blinked a little bit. The moment may have been too bright for them when they got down 8 or 9 in the Sweet 16. This team, because of how experienced they are and how many seniors they have, this team, it's so funny because you can almost sense it. They smell it, they feel it, and it's like, boom, they go on that. They know you. They feel the wave coming, and once they smell it and see blood in the water, they did it against Purdue, Ohio State, against Iowa State, boom, and then they strangle you, and they do it defensively too. Excellent point. It's not just okay, we're going to hit a bunch of threes and trade threes for twos. They lock you down and make it a run and get some separation. That's what's key.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, like we talk about the versatility and how people can, all these players can do different things and all of that. And Denver can, be the 1 or the 2, or, Tahad can, do all these different things. And Chad Baker-Mazara's length, adds so much to it. That's fun on offense. The flexibility that they have on defense is what has made them great. There's a lot of teams that have a lot of pieces on offense, but the ability to switch like crazy, and a lot of these breakdowns that I watched, just laying in bed all week, was about how Michigan struggled with all these teams that switch 1 through 3, and Auburn's got like 3 or 4 guys that can defend 1 through 3 easy. So it's just this. I mean, you got Dylan Cardwell on the perimeter guards, and it's like
it's amazing.
It looks weird, but it's like he's not getting cooked or anything. So let's keep doing it.
He's not out of his element doing that. And I will say this to your point about defense, which doesn't need to get lost in translation. Where would have Auburn been with the way they struggled offensively, and historically bad first half offensively? Where would this team have been at halftime if they didn't defend the way they defended in the first half with that offensive performance? They could have been down double digits, right? So we've said, look, in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament, especially when you start getting to the round of 16, the round of 8, there are times you got to win ugly, and you've got to have your defense carry you for stretches during a game because the shooting gets cold or the other team's really good because you're matched up with teams that are good. And Auburn absolutely showed that in the first half.
Yep. What's your gut on Michigan State? I'm telling you, watching them earlier today, I wasn't blown away by them. Maybe some of that's my like subconscious opinion on Ole Miss, and it took everything for them to beat Ole Miss, which isn't fair to Ole Miss because they were playing really good basketball, and probably not fair to Michigan State. But I was watching that game. I'm like, Auburn could beat either of these teams. They've beaten Ole Miss 3 times already.
Yeah.
I would have rather have played Ole Miss, I think. But no, you disagree just because of the 4
I
times thing?
was relieved that Michigan State won that basketball game. And I guess I'm not trying to be a fatalist, and people can say don't be scared, don't be soft. You know how hard it is to beat a team 3 times in a year in sports?
Tough.
Very tough. And now try to do it 4 times. Would much rather play a team that's never seen us. Now, I get it. Izzo is a legendary coach. And Michigan State, for those listening and watching, I watched a lot of their games. We joke about this, but the Big Ten was Sunday. They played all their games on Sunday. So after Auburn usually smokes somebody on Saturday, it's fun to kick back like it will be tomorrow. It's going to be glorious watching basketball tomorrow when you already know you got a spot in the Elite Eight. I watched 4 or 5 Michigan State games this year. Their biggest strength is their team motto. They call it their mantra this year is they call themselves strength in numbers. Zach, they have 10 or 11 guys that play every night, and they don't complain. They don't moan. They've bought in. They're the only team that Auburn will face this year to this point in the season that has more depth than Auburn. But that's okay, because Auburn has figured out that maybe just playing our 8 is better than your 8, and let's go win with that. Mm-hmm. And so that's – but they're a good basketball team. They go really, really deep. Izzo's a legendary coach. But I like the matchup for Auburn. I really do. And I would much rather be playing them, even though I think Michigan State's a better basketball team than Ole Miss. Hear what I'm saying? I think they're better. And their 2 seed warrants that. I'd rather play somebody Auburn's never played before than play an Ole Miss team for the 4th time.
Yeah. I agree with all that. So Michigan State 7th in KenPom. I want to see where they are offensively, because their defense I thought was awesome. And then, they're pretty far down. And what's this? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 23rd-ish, if I counted that right. 23rd in offensive efficiency. So, I mean, still pretty good.
It's a good matchup. It's who you want to play in an Elite Eight matchup. Michigan State, who isn't quite a blue blood, but they're right there at next tier. And again, Izzo's a master. And I see all these people saying, "Well, Izzo was at the game." Well, yeah, and Auburn watched Michigan State play. I mean, it's not wrong. So it's going to be
an interesting parallel between these 2 teams were both in Maui. But they didn't play each other.
They almost did, because Memphis upset Michigan State.
Right.
Auburn would have had that on their freaking quad. That Michigan State ended up being like 6th or 5th in the country by the time the season ended. Won the regular season, Big Ten, and then got beat in the semifinals of the tournament. Sound familiar? And so they had a very similar season, but not all the quad 1 wins that Auburn had, and did not play as tough. Now, they were in Maui, I get it, but Auburn played some tougher teams out of conference too. So
yeah, right. And I mean, I think at that time, I think Michigan State was just kind of happy to be at Maui. I mean, just talking to Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans, and then they had this really impressive season that kind of caught, I think, a lot of people by surprise in that fan base. And I mean, props to Izzo. I mean, historically good basketball coach. So I'm excited.
He's a Jedi master.
I'm excited to see him and Pearl go at it. It should be great. I mean, if you love college basketball, that is going to be a matchup for sure. 4 SEC teams in the Elite Eight. Is that right?
Yes.
That's crazy.
And
Auburn,
2
Bama,
and
Florida,
two blue leads really late and should have been in, to be honest with you. Arkansas choked and Ole Miss choked late. And so those 2 teams could have easily been in. It would have been 6 of 8, which I don't care. At this point, I don't care about flying the SEC banner. I really don't. I hope one goes down tomorrow, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if Florida got beat. I don't care at this point. Or if Tennessee got beat. I don't care if Auburn's the only SEC team in the Final Four. Let's go.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm not. Who cares about conference pride? You got to worry about your own. And everybody knows each other so well. It is laughable.
I think it's worth pointing out, though, because I mean,
because Auburn won the league.
Because they won the league, and also because we all want to. I don't want to say overreact, but I guess get concerned about whenever we play a decent team in the tournament, like Creighton, like Michigan. where, there's this massive chunk of the fan base. It's like overly concerned or picking us to lose or whatever. And it's like, okay, but you look at everybody who's left, like we've played these teams and we've beaten all of them, but Florida that's left. And it's just like, Auburn can beat anybody. Auburn can beat anybody. And so,
I'm going to tell you right now,
we don't have to play Michigan State. Michigan State has to play Auburn.
Absolutely. And that stretch of 8 minutes, nobody.
Oh, and Duke, obviously.
Well, and I would say this, that 8-minute stretch and the way Auburn played in that 8 minutes, nobody, not Duke, not Florida, not the Lakers with Luka and LeBron are beating. I'm joking about the Lakers, but in college basketball, if they played the way they did during that 8-minute stretch, it's going to be hard for anybody to beat Auburn on a neutral floor. Now, it's not sustainable, so I can say that knowing that they're not going to play that way for 40 minutes. But that's why you made a great point in a group text we were at. You said, just keep it close until somebody pops. And two popped. I almost said Tupac.
I was about to say, did you say Tupac?
I don't like it. California, baby. Two popped. So you called it Notre Dame. But yeah, that's the strategy. I mean, I think the difference for us watching these games, Zach, is we got a little spoiled, didn't we? Early in the year, even against the Purdue's and the Ohio States and the North Carolina, Auburn would just get out and boat race people, be up 20. And at Texas, they had to hold on in some conference games. When they got on those runs and got out early, you cruised in the second half. It's been a little different. But at the end of the day, Auburn still has not played a complete game, and they're going to the Elite Eight. That's a little scary.
For other people.
Yep.
Yeah. Miles has had 2 bad games in a row now.
Yeah. He ain't having 3.
It's Miles who pops on Sunday. I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say Miles and Chad Baker-Mazzara, besides Broom, will be your 2 leading scorers. It'll be Chad and Miles that will take over the guard, like it was Tahad in Denver. That's what's beautiful about this team. It could be somebody else. And it's not just one. It usually comes in a tandem or a duo.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's usually multiple people who score 20. And tonight, Auburn had 3 that scored 20. So shout out to Denver, Janai, and Tahad. Awesome.
Hey, I got to, real quick, you can do the quick math on this because me and Lindsay were talking about this and I wanted to see if it came to fruition. If you include Chad, Denver, Miles, and Tahad, those 4, what were their point total? Please, if you could add those up real quick. Because I said if Auburn give me Tahad, Chad, Denver, and Miles, what they combine for Auburn's 4 guards. Because I said if they get to 60, they'll win by double digits.
All right, so Denver scored 20.
Uh-huh.
Miles scored 5, 25. Tahad scored 20, so 45. Who else?
Chad.
6.
So they scored 51. Yeah, that's still good for your backcourt to get 50 from your guards. Balance.
Incredible night. War Eagle, everybody.
People think I'm keeping you on this. They're like, Dap, let Zach go. He's had the flu. I'm not going to be
able to sleep tonight anyway.
He's had the flu. Well, if you take your medicine, like remember that time that I got sick and had the flu and I jumped on with you and I was a little bit high on cough syrup? Get you some good narcotic cough syrup. I took it thinking I was going to bed and I jumped on with you and Ben. Get you some good narcotic cough syrup and sleep well because I'll sleep like a baby tonight after this. After I watch every freaking highlight I can watch and every snippet and every commentary and analysis. It's fun. It's so much fun when you win and you get to watch breakdowns. And then like tomorrow is just going to be glorious. Watching all the games and just kind of, knowing you've got a slot in the Elite Eight. So,
yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. Guys, please like the stream. Helps the channel out a ton. Helps the show out a ton. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on? And while Darrell's answering that, just quick yes or no question in the chat. Is Auburn in the Elite Eight? Go ahead, Darrell.
Dap6410, Instagram, and with you 3 more times in lives.
Yep, absolutely. I hope.
I'm just speaking it to existence, brother. Why not?
Why not? Why not? That's right. Once again, please like the video. Please subscribe. If you're tuning into the audio version of this after the fact, please subscribe on that audio platform and leave us a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn. And yes, the Tigers are elite.